Cineverb.
Hello, welcome to Cineverm, a weekly podcast discussing films in and out of the cinema. My name is Anthony Renteria,
And I'm David.
and this week on episode 30, we're discussing The Green Knight, directed and written by David Lowery. And here is a quick synopsis. An epic fantasy adventure based on the timeless Arthurian legend, The Green Knight tells the story of Sir Gawain, King Arthur's reckless and headstrong nephew, who embarks on a daring quest to confront I don't know how to say that word. Green Knight, a gigantic emerald-skinned stranger and tester of men. All right, David. So, I don't know if anyone... Well, probably not. We haven't mentioned it, but I consider you kind of like the English expert of the two of us, especially with like literature. So, I assume you have some sort of history with this story. So, what were your impressions of this film and how it translated it to the screen?
Oh yeah, I was like, man, I gotta dust off my English language arts degree for this one. Get out my Brit Lit notes. Yeah, but it was. I mean, first, the movie was great. It was like my first time going back to the theater since COVID, and so yeah, like you told me beforehand, like perfect movie to go back to the theater for because it's just so visually stunning and the sound design is so nice, and it's just things that you would only appreciate fully in a theater, in a dark theater, without many distractions. So I really liked the movie, and I mean, just from obviously the cinematography, the music, but just the symbolic stuff. I felt like it was just a very, very symbolically rich movie, and it added to the original legend in interesting ways. And we could talk about that later as we go through the spoilers and the plot and everything. But I thought there were some interesting changes that he made, the director, because David Lowery also wrote it, the adaptation. And so, yeah, I mean, and because there's really not, I mean, it's a really short poem, like it's not that long. And so there's a lot that you can explore and expand upon. And I feel like he did a really good job of that. And he did it in not a way that was cheesy or, I mean, can you think of any other King Arthur kind of medieval themed movie that is like really great or interesting? Because I feel like when I think of this genre in general, I just think of a lot of really crappy movies that came out around like 2004 or something. You know, just like really crappy King Arthur movies, Camelot movies that are just like Gladiator basically with King Arthur. Just, I don't know, just really crappy stuff. And they go crazy with the action and they go crazy with the romance and stuff. So obviously this, coming from the director of A Ghost Story, you kind of know what you're going to expect. And A24, obviously you kind of know the general feeling to expect. And I think the trailers also did a good job of showing you what the movie was going to feel like. Very emotionally heavy, kind of intense, but not like, maybe intense isn't the right word, but I mean the music was very intense. Another good part of the movie was the music, but just the emotions of it and the symbolic richness, kind of mythology of it. I just thought it was a really good job of like taking this really rich myth and actually making an adaptation of it in movie form that didn't feel super shallow and watered down. I don't know, man. Just that was the main thing that I took away from it. Like I felt it a lot, especially the ending. Not,
oh my god.
not like the very ending, but just the ending montage. Just man. Yeah. I was like, that was one of those, like I was like kind of on the edge of my seat for that. I mean, if there's any downsides to the movie, which there's very little, I would say maybe it's just that the themes of the movie aren't really clear, or like the message that we're supposed to, like what the director's trying to say about honor and heroism was a little bit like unclear to me, or wishy-washy or something. And also the ending was a little bit too, like, not enough, like not enough of a, it was too much of a Inception kind of like, ooh, what's gonna happen next, like ending where it's
Yeah.
trying to make you think. But it's like, okay, but this story I feel like should have a more definite, because so much of the movie is so symbolic and metaphorical and kind of, the movie makes you think. It's very thought provoking, I think, and so the ending doesn't need to be that thought provoking. Like in
Yeah.
the story, the original story, it wraps up very cleanly. It's like the end of a Scooby-Doo episode. It's like,
Yeah.
we know who the Green Knight is, we know why everything happened. So like the original is very clear cut. So I guess he wanted to do something more uh, more ambiguous, but I
Yeah.
don't know. I just feel like that was a little bit of a flaw for a movie that
Okay.
was like so strong. Um,
Yeah.
I feel like that's all I want to say for now. What did you think? What were your general impressions?
Yeah, so so I will admit I'm very nervous to talk about this film just because I feel like this is probably the first film that we've reviewed together that I am actually like captivated by. Like it's been so long since I've watched a movie where like I have this immediate like I don't like this. I don't like this movie. Like as soon as it ended I was like I don't like it. But it's just like I don't know why I do it, but it's just like I don't understand the film. And then like all night I just couldn't stop thinking about the film. Like the moments in this film, the cinematography, the music like you mentioned. But then also the performances is something you haven't mentioned yet that I guess
Hmm.
really surprised me. Like I haven't really seen Dev Patel in much of anything. I can't even like remember what other roles that I've seen him in. Like I know he is a prominent actor, and I know that he's a good actor, but I just haven't. I guess I've never experienced him like I did in this film, and then I for the other performers like Alicia Vikander, like she is so fucking amazing. Oh my god! Like I didn't know she was in this film, and
Yeah.
she is like there's Florence Pugh and then her, and I think she is the better actor of the two, and she is just so like oh my god, dude, like I'm in love with this woman, and like just like and I didn't know anything about this movie really, like and that's the other thing. I went into this film blind. I don't know anything about King Arthur or the knights. I've never heard this tale. I didn't know where it was going. The movie started and like well let me see if the synopsis said. Well, the synopsis doesn't say what the, general thing of the plot is, but when that is set up in the first 5 minutes, I was like, what the fuck is going on? But it was in a good way cuz I was like I was just like, wait, am I stupid? Like why would anyone do that? And I think for anyone who's going into this film not knowing this tale and like what this story is about or is supposed to be about or whatever, I feel like a lot of people will have that kind of weird, immediately negative reaction. Like I was just like looking at the Rotten Tomatoes, like the audience scores like at a 40, and like
Yeah.
even in Letterboxd, it's a super love or hate film. And so I just think for anyone who just likes your blockbuster kind of fantasy movies, I don't think they will like this film on a first viewing. But I think this film has so much depth that if you even consider yourself a fan of cinema, you will understand like the artistry of at least the visuals or the music or the performances or even the writing. I mean, talking about Vikander, like she has two moments in this film that just fucking like blew me away. Like ex
Hmm.
machina level of like giving a monologue or making a
Yes.
statement, and I was just like, "Oh my god. This is what I live for." Ugh.
Yeah, the monologue that she gives, I'm glad you mentioned that. Like, because yeah, the monologue she gives about the green color and what that
Yeah.
represents. It's like, oh my god! Like, I was like,
I
damn,
mean,
I have not heard a monologue that was that natural in a long while. That was like that natural sounding, but also like that, uh, it draws you in, where it just kind of puts you in a
Yep.
trance, like
Yep.
listening to this monologue. Yeah, that
Yep.
was
And
really good.
it's just her voice. And that's what I like. Like David Lowery really did a fantastic job directing everyone. Like every performance felt real, and I feel like that's a really hard thing to nail in a fantasy film,
Yeah.
especially one that's because the vibe of this film is not, how we talked about the old King Arthur films. It's not even like Lord of the Rings. It's not it like I don't think I've ever seen a fantasy film that feels like this. Like this feels like I mean, it feels like an A24 film, but it feels so indie. I guess like art house. It feels like ethereal. Like it feels
Mm.
like the whole thing could exist in a dream, and it just like marinates and silences and pauses. It's like if Denis Villeneuve directed the Lord of the Rings. Like Blade Runner 2049 level of just things are slowed down. And
Yeah.
I mean this film is way slower than Blade Runner was. So I just love that this exists. Like I feel like I didn't know I wanted this from like A24 or from this genre. Like I typically don't like fantasy films, and this one has just been like festering in my brain. And with all the and like how you mentioned what is the film saying about bravery or honor, and I don't know, I've been just boiling with my own ideas, and I'm starting to like form my own thoughts of it, which I think would be better to get into the spoilers for like what we think the film is about so we can actually
Hmm.
talk about events. But yeah, man, this movie fucking holy shit, it blew me away.
Yeah. Yeah, I was definitely like the last movie that I could think of that I felt that way watching it in the theaters was Blade Runner 2049. I was like, oh man, that's certain times I was getting that vibe because I like so respect movies that are just slow, that or
Yeah.
that take their time, that do not feel rushed. It's like
Yeah.
um, it just feels so nice and just relaxing. And I didn't feel like, I don't know about you, but I didn't feel like there were any um, unnecessary, totally unnecessary scenes. I guess. Okay, wait, there might have been one, like the interlude scene, but
Oh yeah.
I don't know. Most of it felt like it flowed kind of very naturally, and I wasn't getting really bored. I don't know. So I feel like it was slow paced compared to the average movie, but it wasn't I wouldn't say it was boring or anything.
Yeah.
And if you've seen the David Lowery's, A Ghost Story, he definitely is not shy of slowing down the pace of the movie a lot. Uh,
Yeah. See, I haven't seen Ghost. Like the only film from him that I've seen is Pete's Dragon, which I
yeah.
did not like, or I
Uh,
remember not liking. I wasn't paying attention to it much, but that's the only work of his that I've seen. And yeah, like how you're saying about the pace, I do feel like this film was so unique in its construction. Like I don't think it's a spoiler to say this film kind of has like acts, like chapter breaks to it,
I really
and
liked
that's and
the
that's something I wasn't
titles.
yeah, I was not expecting that, and I've never seen a film actually do that well. And at first, like the first 40 minutes of this film, I didn't like it, but once it got to like the interlude, basic, like once it got to the midsection of the film, I loved seeing those clean cuts of like now this is gonna happen, or like it kind of made it feel like this larger than life tale. Like it was just kind of like I just kept thinking about like how The Hobbit kind of feels
Hmm.
like that. The book,
Yeah.
how it just feels like it's just like a escalating series of events, and this film kind of had that sensation.
Yeah, because this is one of those stories like The Green Knight. It's like it is one of those like Beowulf or like that just has that or oh god, forgetting the other one, but it's just one of those like myths that has resonance even could probably thousands of years later. I don't know, because it's so rich. It just feels like one of those stories that was sifted through time enough, and
Yeah.
and I mean, I even dare to say Star Wars, would be the most modern example of that, of just like a story that kind of combines a bunch of stuff from previous, eras and different types of stories and puts it all in one like short, nice, neat, uh, kind of timeless story. So it was definitely a movie that deserved, or it was a story that deserved like a good movie. And I feel like you
Yeah.
couldn't have done much better than this version.
Yeah. Oh, I was gonna ask you in the beginning, but I forgot. How was your theatrical experience? Like, did you have any annoying
Oh
people,
god,
or?
yeah, yeah. Of course, yeah. It's like, okay, I go see this movie at 11:40 a.m. On a weekday because I don't want to, I haven't been to the theater in a while. I don't want to crowd a theater. I hate going
Yeah.
and seeing movies at night when it's super crowded. And like the theater had just opened at like 11, and still like it was fairly like, for 11:40 there were a good number of people in there, and there was one guy that just I'm like, dude, he had one of those old cell phones that was like
Oh my
super
god.
super bright screen, super bright white, and like the thing commercial comes on to tell you like, hey, don't ruin the movie, turn your phone off. He's
Yeah.
not paying attention to that at all. He just has this bright white screen just sitting in the middle of the theater, just like blazing on everyone behind him. And some guy, man, I wanted to like shake his hand or something. Some guy actually got up and went down and told him, was like, hey, like, do you mind like turning your phone off? But I didn't hear what the guy said back to him, but it sounded like the guy that went and told him that he either said thank you or fuck you, and I don't know I don't know which one it was. So I don't know, but the guy continued to look at his phone, but then he finally figured out like how to put it under his jacket or something. So I'm just like, oh
Oh
my god,
no.
there's always people like that, and it's like, okay,
Yeah.
God, watching movies from home, it just really spoils you after a while.
Yeah.
But it's just it is that it's a weird activity to like, other people have said it, but just to sit in like a dark room with a bunch of strangers and you're all just
Yeah.
silent and paying attention to this light on the screen, it's like it's really weird and unique experience, and I really like it. And
Yeah.
yeah, certain movies you gotta, it's just not the same watching it from home. And I do feel like this movie was one of those that if I'd watched it on a little TV screen, it might not have been the same experience. So
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. Like if you're listening to this and at all interested in this movie, just go ahead and check it out in the theaters before it leaves. Because I'm not sure. I mean, with the reception that it's getting, I'm not sure how long this movie's gonna stay in theaters. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
It's I feel like it's gonna be rough. I mean, even like giving the Blade Runner comparison, even Blade Runner, I remember
yeah,
that did horribly
yeah,
at
and
the
it's
theaters.
depressing that
Yeah.
happened. But it's just like you got to think of the average moviegoer and what they want from a movie, and it's like, yeah, there's popcorn movies and then there's not popcorn movies, and but it's like some of those still deserve to be seen in theaters. So I don't know.
Yeah. I think psychologically, like the thing that I love the most from going to the theater is that knowing I can't pause the film, and then
Yeah.
like I am unwilling to like move or get out of my seat to go to the bathroom or anything, because
Yep.
it's like I can't miss anything, even if it's a bad movie. I'm like, I cannot, like, it just feels like I'm breaking a vow or something. And that's something like, even like I'm thinking about like Saint Maud, like I know for a fact I would have enjoyed it more if it was in a theater, just
Mm.
for that initial viewing, because I feel like that's like a very important
Yeah.
experience when you're
Yeah.
experiencing a film. Like that first viewing just kind of establishes a lot of your thoughts going forward, at least for
Mm.
me.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, man, that sucks that that guy was on his phone. Like that was throughout the whole film.
No, thank goodness. He
Okay.
finally figured out how to like put it under his jacket and hide it, but it's like his head was down the whole movie. I don't know what he was doing, but
Yeah.
yeah, really weird. And then like, you have the couple of people that just like randomly leave in the middle of the movie and you're like, what were they doing? I don't know, like did they really hate the movie that much, or were they just in here just to spend time in a dark room in the middle of the day during their
Yeah.
lunch break or something? Like, I don't know. Weird people in this theater, but
Yeah, you know, the same thing happened in my theater. These people just walked out in the middle of the film, and I was like, "What the fuck? Like, who watches an hour of this?" And then it's like, you know what? I'm good.
yeah, that's it.
Oh
Whatever.
my god.
It is weird, yeah.
Oh
But
man.
oh yeah. So
What's
oh, go ahead.
Oh no, you can go.
Oh, I was gonna ask for your rating.
Oh, well yeah, before that, was there any
Yes.
other like big like well I guess one thing I really loved about this film, kind of talking kind of how like old I feel like did horribly in the costume and set design. This film, like I don't know what their budget was, but I know A24 is very I mean, they don't have large budgets. So, and like just the Green Knight in this film looks phenomenal.
Oh
Like
yeah.
all the costumes look phenomenal. The swords, the armor, the castles, the like houses. Like this, like it feels like a film that has $100 million budget, and they just decided to cut out all the action scenes and like all the CGI special effects, which I love, but I'm just saying that as a compliment to the like set designers and costume designers because there's no way they had a quarter of the budget that something like Blade Runner does, and like I would put these two films like right there together on the set design and costume design. Like this world feels so grounded, and I guess that's something else that I really loved about this film was it felt like just so real. Like it felt like that kind of indie darling kind of film that you watch about two characters who live in like some apartment or something. Like your typical like Sundance kind of emotion based story or character
Hmm.
driven story. Like this felt like it was that. And it somehow managed to have all this fantasy elements and nail it and make it not look fake or generic or cheesy, which I think that's insane to think about how they pulled this off. Like some of those shots, like the locations that this film visits, the like I don't know how much of it is CGI or not, but I mean like all of it looks so real to me.
Yeah, real nice. And I feel like I feel like a couple of things that maybe um went into that, making it feel really realistic even though it was very fantastical. I feel like the sound design was something that I really noticed. Like God, like the sounds, it's just like there was really close attention to detail, like just little things. Like I noticed when he sets an axe down, next to where water is flowing down and little droplets of water falling on the axe. Like you could
Oh
hear that.
yeah.
You could hear the little droplets of water. Like they put that sound in there, and
Yeah.
just little things like that. I was like, whoa, like even during the puppet show that they were doing, showing the events of the Green Knight coming, like even during this little scene of the puppet show, they put in sound effects, like realistic sound effects, like
Yeah.
when the head gets chopped off, like you hear the little squishing and stuff. So it seemed like whoever was doing the sound and the sounds of the Green Knight himself, like when he comes in, just the tree. It sounded like they mixed actual sounds of trees groaning, or like the sounds that a tree would
Yeah.
make when the wind is blowing it or when it's getting cut down or it's falling down or whatever, mixed with, metal clanking and, the clothing or tree branches brushing against each other. Like, oof, there was just so much rich sound in this movie. And I think that really
Yeah.
helped it stay grounded even when, really fantastical stuff was going on.
Yes. All right. I guess it's time to. Damn, I am struggling with the rating. So I guess. All right. I guess my final statement on the film is, this is an amazing piece of cinema. I fucking adore it. Can't stop thinking about it. It's like a fucking virus spreading through my heart. Uh, and like I don't know, it's just like it nailed everything that I keep saying I want in films, and it gave it to me in ways I wasn't expecting. So I think I will give this film a 10 out of 10.
What the heck? Damn. 10 out of from a 3 out of, what was it, the last one you gave? 3 out of 10 to a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, and it's weird. Like I want to give it a 9, but I'm like, what would I change from this film? Like, what would I add? What would
Yeah,
I?
cuz that's
And
your
like, I can't
that's
find a flaw in it.
yeah, that's your rating system is, yeah, like what would you be able to, if you had control of it, what would you have done to
Yeah.
improve it? Yeah.
And like, so right after the film, I was immediately at an 8 because I didn't understand what the theme was because I didn't know this story. So like, it was all just like, this is just confusing as fuck. Like, it just doesn't make sense. But then, like, just thinking about the emotional moments and then like I'm kind of applying myself to this character, which is how I take like most folklores or tall tales like these to be. Like, it's kind of like a lesson of some sort. So applying myself to this character and like seeing the resemblances that I share with him, I'm like, oh, I fucking get it now. And then once that clicked, like earlier today, then I was like, yeah, I think this is a fucking 10 out of 10. But yeah, that's my rating. What is your
Nice.
rating?
I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. Cause that like,
What?
well, like an 8 for me. You know, I have a different rating scale than you. So like a 10 out. Okay, first, like if I
Okay.
don't feel like I would watch the movie again almost immediately and enjoy it just as much, then it's not gonna get a 9 or a 10. And I kind of felt like
Mm-hmm.
that with this movie. Like as good as it was, I I wouldn't watch it tomorrow, and expect to enjoy it as much because I don't know what it is, but it's just wasn't.
You wouldn't.
No, I don't know. It just wasn't that quite that interesting to me. But I mean, 8 out of 10 is still like an 8 out of 10 is a movie that maybe like in a year, I would watch again just to get something different out of it because I feel like it has enough depth, to it. And you know, a 9 out of 10 is one, like I said, like I would watch several times because I'm like, okay, there's something else to this movie. And
Mm-hmm.
obviously a 10 out of 10 would just be like, all right, timeless classic. When I'm thinking about movies, I'm thinking about this movie. So it's not quite
Yeah.
10 out of 10 for me. So, and then a 7 out of 10 is like it could be, it was a really decent movie, but it wasn't
Yeah.
it wasn't special. So I feel like this one just tips right over the scale into an 8 out of 10. I feel like it had
Yeah.
that a specialness to it. So yeah, that's
So
my rating.
so just for the record, that's what you gave Saint Maud. So you would put
Oh
these
yeah,
two in the same.
yes, I would. I'm
Oh
very,
man.
very, I'm very, very confident about that comparison. Yep,
No.
yep. Because I know you had a
That.
totally different opinion, but yes, I seriously, I like think about these two movies. I for sure think about them on even, like they're even on the scale, for sure.
Yeah. So I guess who would you recommend this to? Like, would you recommend this to anyone who likes like fantasy blockbuster stuff? Like, do you think they would get
Man, I don't.
anything out of it?
I think the best group of people to recommend this to would be A24 fan type people
Yeah.
because it is still like a very A24 movie, focusing on one character and focusing on the visuals and the music and the emotions of it and um I don't know, it just feels very A24. So yeah, I mean, just that's the biggest group of people I would recommend it to, I guess. And probably
Okay.
people who are English lit, people that
Oh
just,
yeah.
that are more familiar with the mythology and stuff. I mean, from what I can tell, they really, I mean, David Lowery really paid attention to that because there were certain details that later today I went and was looking back at the story and realized like, oh wow, he like put that detail in there even though he didn't have to. Like he put that in there, even though that's a small detail from the mythology, and he took this detail that is something that maybe like scholars debate about, but he went ahead and put that in there, that interpretation of it. And so
Yeah.
I just feel like yeah, people would get a kick out of that. And people who like their movies symbolic, like who like
Yes.
movies that have a lot of, literally just like a lot of like symbols and things to think about, and that feel
Yeah.
movies that feel universal, and
Yeah.
so yeah, those kind of people.
And like if you just enjoy art house movies, like if you
Right,
just like a vibe, like you don't
right.
really care for events or action,
Mm-hmm.
you just want a feeling out of a film. Yeah.
Yeah.
But all right. That concludes our review portion of The Green Knight. If you don't want to be spoiled, you can pause the podcast now. And while you do that, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review or comment on what you thought about the film or our takes on it. And you can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and you can email us any questions at cineverm@yahoo.com. And yeah, that's it. All right. Spoilers are starting now. So
All right.
So
let me crack open my beer here for the spoilers. All right. So what do you want to start with?
I want to start with the lore of this, like the backstory, because I didn't know anything about the Green Knight. So like, I guess, what did you find interesting with his interpretation from someone who's read the original tale?
Well, let's just go ahead since we're in the spoiler section. The big one is that you're thinking about, and I like that it's interesting that you didn't know about the story, because lots of, like you were pointed out, like lots of the negative reviews were from people who didn't know the story, so that left me like kind of doubting. After I watched the movie, I was like, wait, like, did I only enjoy the movie this much because I was familiar with the story? Like, if someone was not familiar with the story, could this movie stand on its own? So I wasn't sure about that. But
Yeah.
I mean, because you have to understand that the whole thing's about like honor, and the chivalric code. Because I know some people might think like, why is he going to do this exactly? Like, what's the point if he just knows he's going to get beheaded? But you got to understand the whole Arthurian chivalric code, and how that's like the number one thing. And all his tests in this movie, all the trials he goes through is just about that. It's testing his honor. Like, is he gonna stick with the code, or is he gonna fall to deceit or whatever?
So what is the code? Like, what is, like, I guess let's talk about the beginning of the film, I guess. Like, what in the code would push him to cut this knight's head off?
Okay, and this is one thing that another thing that I wanted to mention as what I would say is kind of a flaw in how they changed the story, which is the character of Gawain. Like, in the story, and I think in like the Arthurian legends, like Gawain, his flaw is that he's overconfident. Like he's overconfident in his abilities. He's quick to jump into things. He's brash, whatever. But I feel like David Lowery, like how he made Gawain in this movie, he made him the opposite. He set him up to be the opposite, to be kind of hesitant, and timid or cowardly. Cowardly, yeah. I mean, at the beginning, he's cowardly, and he only volunteers like really hesitantly, but and that doesn't quite make sense. Like you said, like, why would he just go to just chopping off this guy's head? But in the story, because Sir Gawain is the overconfident one, it makes sense that he just leaps over the table, and just chops his head off. So like
that's what he does in the original tale.
Yeah,
like it's like more gung ho.
Yeah, he's gung ho about it. He's not like in this movie where he's very hesitant, like looking around, like, oh, is this all right, guys? Like, you know what I mean? Like, so I feel like that was a little bit of a flaw, but I feel like the reason that David Lowery did that was to create the character transformation, from the really chaotic, but like also like really timid and cowardly like character, to someone who learns how to be courageous at the end. But it does kind of mess up that at the beginning, or makes it confusing to people. Like, wait, why would he just immediately, especially after he knows the challenge, right? Like, doesn't he he tells him that you're gonna get the same blow. So like, it just but in the story, when you're just reading it as a poem, it makes sense, because like Sir Gawain, he's the knight of the Round Table. That's very, he's defending his king, and he's just gonna leap over the table and just decapitate this guy that's coming in here. And so it makes more sense.
And so, for the film's defense, and this is so like, from what you just said and the just initial viewing of the film, I was immediately at an 8 out of 10, because I was like, that's stupid. Like, and like, even like the original story kind of sounds stupid, just because it's a code and it's like, like anything that has to do with someone else's rules, I'm immediately like, fuck that shit. But then it was when I started to think about this film and started to think about it from like why would a writer change that? Like, I was thinking, like, if if I had to adapt this old tale, I would have immediately done the same thing. It's like, well, what's the emotional core? And like that's the thing I'm always like harping on. And it wasn't until I discovered what I guess my interpretation of this film is, that the core idea of this film is like someone who is so miserable and unconfident and unsure of their own life, and that they only have like a certain thing they want to look forward to. And it took me a while to kind of tie these two things together. But like, for example, let's say I was Garwin, and then the challenge or the game was you cut this thing's head off, and then you can be famous for anything that you want to do. So for me, it's like, oh, I want to be a film director. I honestly think if that challenge was given to me, if I could live 1 year as a film director and just be in glory, and I think it's also kind of talking about masculinity. It's talking about the like how humanity views itself as like a being that needs, like we all kind of crave like a legacy. And I feel like that's what the story kind of morphed into for me, was like he had no, like humans are so selfish that we would all cut the head off of this being just to have a life worth living, because that's the only thing that he can find a reason in life for, you know. And like that's kind of what I felt from the film. And it wasn't until I kind of tied those two things together that it really started to resonate with me. And then that's when like all the scenes after that moment started to really make sense, because it's just like we kind of live our lives in that way. We're just constantly struggling with what is the word, like things that tempt us, and it always distracts us from our core path. And we've like our lives are predetermined essentially, you know, like you're going to die regardless. So like, would you exchange a like a leg, I guess, what is the word, not legacy, but like,
Legacy?
well, you
I don't
would
know.
be remembered forever. What is the, like
Yeah,
you are
I mean,
a,
legacy makes sense. Yeah.
yeah. So like, would you exchange having a legacy for or living a life of no meaning and then having no legacy? And then the difference is you would only live 1 year and then get your head cut off. but that's what I
Ah,
kind of
that's
like. That's what I
interesting.
kind of, and then like it made sense to me. See, I don't know the original story, so like this is all just me emotionally portraying myself onto it. But that's what really resonated, because like I always think of those folklore tales or whatever legends as like I get what the original is, like it's about someone being way too cocky or overconfident, but I think this story fits just as well, or not, if better, when it's someone like this character was, which is just a piece of shit person, just like full blown fucking dumbass. And he's just so like, he's arrogant, but he's just an idiot, and he's just selfish, and he's just like unaware of anyone else's life or anyone else's emotions, and all he cares about is this thing that he's been told that he needs to care about. Like, and I think that's what Lowry did very smartly, was to not make him a knight, because if he would have been a knight and then took in this challenge and had the same trajectory and the same character arc
Mm.
or personality, it would not make sense, because all the knights were, they had already all achieved their own legacy. So it's like, why would I take this challenge? And of course it has to be someone who has no meaning to their life to take this challenge. And now this challenge is the only thing that means anything to them. And I think the film kind of reinforces that when, you know, like it's showing the little puppets and it's showing everyone's reactions, and like suddenly everyone talks to him about
Oh yeah, yeah.
like he was a nobody and now he's somebody because he's stupid. But
Gosh, yeah, I see both ways. I think your like interpretation of it is interesting because it's like a modern values interpretation of it. But like, yeah, I feel like the values that it was written in, are
yeah,
very like we can barely comprehend, thinking
yeah,
that way because we're so just individualistic and caught up in our own
yeah,
little adventures and narratives. But I feel like yeah, that value of honor doesn't really make much sense to us anymore. But if
For us,
you're,
it's legacy. It's I want to leave
yeah,
something behind for my family. It's I want to be remembered for being a
right.
great person. It's those are the things that I feel like we're all kind
But
of brainwashed with.
do you think the movie was saying that's all right? Or because I kind of, one little thing about the ending, which maybe you can help me with this because I don't quite remember exactly what the last line was, what the Green Knight says. I think it's something like, now we can take your head off or something like that. It's something like that. Like now
He
it's time to
I
take your
think
head off.
well he said very well. Now is the time for me to take my blow, or for you to take your blow, or something. Like I just remember the last line was him saying he was about to finally do the move.
You mean the Green Knight, right?
Yeah, that the Green Knight
Yeah.
was about to swing.
And I think specifically he used the words like it's time to off with your head or time to take your head or something like that. And like because what it made me think of was it's kind of like at that point when he accepted death, his fate, it was like his ego, it was like his head, his ego was gone, like he'd gotten rid of that, and that was his
Yeah.
character transformation, which would kind of be the opposite of what your interpretation of it is, which is like the modern, like, yeah, like, you gotta take life by the balls and like take your legacy, get your legacy. So I don't know which it is. I don't know
Well,
which
I think
which it
no,
was or what the director wanted it to be.
no. So the ending, that pre-ending montage, was
Hmm.
him visualizing the scenario of him running because he had that belt and he knew
Right.
that he could escape the Green Knight.
Yep.
And then he visualized, what his new life legacy would be, and he would just be this ruined, selfish king. And then
Yep.
I guess when he realized, how do I want to die? Because like either way, and like that's what I think. It's more about human life. Like we are all going to die, and that's inevitable. The Green Knight cutting our heads off is inevitable. The
Yeah.
choice is, how do you want that to happen? And that's the only choice any living person has, technically, is I can kind of control, one, how I live, and two, how I die, or how I choose to die, if I choose that. So in his scenario, he's like, I can run away and do whatever, or I can be selfless right now, and how you're saying, like, remove my ego and
Hmm.
take my fate as
Right.
I promised I would.
Yeah, with courage, like without, because the
Yeah.
green sash that he takes off, I feel like is just the symbolic of cowardice, like fake protection. Like you think you're
Yeah.
gonna wear this thing and that's gonna protect you, but yeah, like how long is it gonna protect you for? So it's
Yeah.
like a fake protection, and
Yeah.
he chooses to take it off and submit to his fate, and yeah. And okay, can I tell you the original, like in the actual poem,
Oh
how it
yeah.
is?
Hell yeah.
It's
Hell
like
yeah.
how it ends in the original is that when he's with that guy, with the guy and his wife in the castle, and the guy, they play the game. They play the game where the guy is like, all right, I'm gonna go hunting, and every day, whatever I bring back, whatever I get from hunting, I'll give to you, and whatever you get from my house, you give to me. And
Mm-hmm.
the first morning, the wife comes in and tries to seduce him, but he, because of his honor, he resists her seductions, and she's like, "Well, just give me one kiss." And so he gives her the kiss. And when the guy comes back from hunting, the guy gives him whatever he got from hunting, and Gawain gives him the kiss. Showing him, "Oh yeah, okay, this is what I got from your house." And so, like most, fairy tales or whatever, like the rule of three. So this happens three times. The second day it's two kisses. The third day it's three kisses. But then the lady says, "Okay, take this sash, this green sash. It's magic, and it's gonna protect you from all bodily harm, just like in the movie.
Yeah.
Except he doesn't ejaculate on it." Um, but yeah. Anyway, so he takes the sash because he's afraid, because the next day, he's gonna meet the Green Knight. But he doesn't tell the guy that he took the sash. And so
Yeah.
that's like, okay, he's lying. Like, he's not being honest. He's being afraid because he's afraid that the guy will take the sash. He feels like he needs the sash for
To
protection.
survive.
And
Yeah.
that's both cowardice and, lying, and not living up to his word, his promise, his deal. So when he meets the Green Knight fakes like he's gonna, hit him, and Sir Gawain flinches, and the Green Knight kind of makes fun of him, just like the movie.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of showing, okay, he's not quite ready. And then I think he tries a second time, um, and then the third time he nicks him in the neck, like he full, like he's gonna put his full force into it, but he just stops right at his neck and just kind of cuts him, and he tells him that's for taking the sash, basically, like that's that's for your transgression of
Yeah.
taking the sash. And so then the Green Knight reveals himself to be the guy from the castle, and it was all magic. It was a magic spell cast by, oh god, I'm gonna forget the character's name, but it's like Morgan Le Fay, which is like a character in the
Mm-hmm.
Arthur Legends, which is his mom in this version of the.
Yeah.
In the movie version, it's his mom who's casting these spells, making this happen. So anyway, it was all just a test, that in order to test King Arthur's knights for their honor. And so he goes back, and they forgive him for his, for breaking his honor and lying. And then they all wear green sashes, like all the knights, to kind of remember and remember that flaw, and to remember not to do that in the future, the consequences of that. So I don't know, it wraps it up nice and neat, and
Yeah.
and the green sash makes more sense. I mean, I feel like that's another flaw of this movie, or maybe it's not. Maybe it's just I don't understand what he was trying to do with it, because in the movie, his mom gives him the green sash at the beginning, like saying,
Yeah.
"Hey, wear this, like, and it will protect you," which makes you think the green sash is like a good thing because his mom gave it to him. Like, why? I don't know. It doesn't make sense, especially if she's the one that's making all of this happen. Why is she also giving him the green sash? But then it gets stolen from him, but then magically the lady has it and gives it to him. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like, I don't know why that change was made exactly, but I don't know. I feel like it makes more sense just that the lady gives it to him as part of, like, she's flirting with it. And she's like, here,
Yeah.
take this. And he takes it because he's afraid. So I don't know. Interesting change, but
Yeah, there are that kind of leads into like the part I'm still confused by, which is that part. And just some of the logic stuff, like I'm not sure exactly how this all happened. So like yeah, the green sash, how did the the lady who's with the other god, what the dude in the house, the
let
castle.
me, yeah, let me get their names so we can use it. But yeah,
It's
continue.
like four characters that I can't. But yeah, that girl, like how did she get the green sash? And then like when he goes to the well, let's start from the beginning. He gets like ambushed by those like beggars or whatever, the
Yeah.
thieves, and they take his axe and everything. And that's and at that part of the film I was like, oh, this is fucking dope. Like that guy's gonna get his head cut off. Or like I just started imagining like different scenarios kind of like fucking going haywire. But then like I don't understand what happened after that, because he rides off and then suddenly the Green Knight goes to that cabin, and then there's the beheaded lady, and then the green axe appears before him. So like I'm kind of confused, like so like did any of that make sense to you, like how, like what's actually happening? Because then we see the beggar again, like in his vision towards the end or whatever, and he's just like walking down the forest like nothing happened.
Yeah, because I feel like my interpretation was that all of this was orchestrated by his mom, who is this very powerful witch, who has these other witches, the other women that were helping her.
Yeah.
And I feel like, because at some point, I think it's the Saint Winifred, the girl without the head, the ghost without the head that he retrieves. I think she says that, like, she says something like, every night you meet is someone you know. Um, I don't know. I thought that was an interesting line, and I feel like also the clue of that guy, the scavenger guy, played great little bit part, like played by that Barry Cogan. Do you know
Oh
that
yeah,
actor?
dude.
God,
Yeah, dude.
I love
He's
that guy. Like,
when he showed like this movie was just full of surprises for me. I didn't know
yeah,
he was in this or Vikander or even the dude from the castle. I forgot his name. He's like a director as well.
yeah, yeah. But oh god, I just love that guy. I love his face. I love
Yeah.
his awkward, just like unpredictable like character that he plays. And like, I don't know. Have you seen Killing of a Sacred Deer?
No, but I want
Oh
to.
my
Oh my
god,
god.
that's like him. Like he's such much more of a main character, and it's so good. Playing just a sleazy, just kind of creepy, like you don't know what to think about this guy character.
Yeah.
But anyway, I feel like God, I just feel like all of that was supernatural, was meant to be part of the test that was conjured up by this whatever spell was cast by his mom or was continuing to be cast. And
Yeah.
like all of it is just to test him. Like all of it's to help him grow into, a man who has
Yeah.
honor. And so that was just what I thought of all that. Like the fact that the axe magically reappears in
The
Saint
cabin.
in Saint Winifred's cabin. Um, the fact that the sash shows up again, which in the something I learned today when I was reading, like in the legend, the creepy old lady in the castle that's the lady with the blindfold on, that's in the
Yeah.
castle and is always there with the lady that's seducing him. Like in the legend, or I think in some versions of it, that's supposed to be um his mom. Well, who's his mom in this version of it? She's his aunt in other versions of it, but whatever. Let's not get crazy. But anyway, his mom character, basically, like the old lady, the blinded old lady, is his mom in disguise, which makes the seduction scenes
Yeah.
a lot creepier. But the fact that she's standing in the corner there, watching it, but yeah, like she's basically the mastermind behind everything that's happening to
Oh, that
him.
makes sense because she's blindfolded. She's not really seeing him. She's just like present, like she's just aware that
Oh
he's
yeah.
not following what he's supposed to
Oh,
be. It's more of a like, fuck, dude, like we're giving you everything and you were
doesn't
just
doesn't she put a blindfold on when she's casting her spells or whatever at
yep.
the beginning?
Yep.
Oh my god, yes.
Yeah, so
Oh my god, I
that's
didn't think about that when I was watching it.
oh, okay. Now
Yeah,
this
good
is
stuff.
all like a mental trip. Like this is all a spell casted upon him.
Well, no, no, no. Well, I don't. I think it's actually he's actually taking the journey, but I think
Yeah.
the characters that he meets, yeah, lots of them are just
Creations.
conjure. Yeah, she's just conjuring them up, basically.
So
Yep.
even Barry Keoghan's
Yeah.
characters. Yeah,
Yeah, I feel
okay.
like that little group of hooligans, either that or they're real people and they're being influenced by her, because I don't know if you
Mm,
know, like in the first scene when the Green Knight shows up, like it seemed like a lot of things that people were doing she was directly influencing, which was a bit creepy because it kind of takes away like the free will of all these characters and it makes you think
yeah.
like, okay, like is any of this free will? Because like there was one point, I don't know if you noticed, but like a night when the Green Knight enters and all the knights are standing up like ready to defend King Arthur, one of the knights kind of, King Arthur looks at that knight like, hey, like what are we doing? And for a second the background sort of fades away and it shows her, you know um doing some, like standing behind him with her hands kind of like around his head, and then it kind of
Yeah.
fades back to the scene and he shakes his head like saying like, don't, let him come forward, like don't worry about it. And then King Arthur says come forward. And so there's just so many things, like there were a bunch of little things like that where I was like, whoa, like she's like controlling people. She can actually like influence people to do stuff.
Yeah.
She can conjure things. I mean, she basically just conjured the Green Knight. um
Yeah.
so yeah, she's a very powerful like witch. And yeah, I just
That's
feel like
that's that's very interesting because like the one interview that I could find with David Lowery about the film, and Dev Patel was in it as well, was they asked him exactly like why did you do the changes and like what was kind of your process of like modernizing this story, and like the only thing that he said of substance was this is a coming of age story. And
Yeah.
that's kind of what, that's the anchor, that's what the whole thing is aiming for, and it was just kind of wrapping everything up to support that idea. So
Yep.
that's interesting now, thinking about how almost all of this is conjured or created by the mother, and it's
Mm-hmm.
almost like she is. I guess that's an interesting take too. Like, as a mother, you're like, I know my kid will do the right thing,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're giving them so many chances. Like, he's given so many opportunities, and now I'm thinking like that the scene with Barry, it starts and it's like called A Small Act of Kindness. I don't know if that's in the original tale, but like, was that maybe him being greedy and like he didn't want to give back to someone who's obviously a scavenger? Like, would, if he had given more money or gold or something of value to that person, would he have actually not uh
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that was I mean, that was like a test for sure. So I think, yeah, like if we're going with that, they were all those characters were influenced or like conjured up by her.
yeah,
Yeah, that was just a test of his charity, which is part. I mean, I feel like that's part of the chivalric code. So yeah,
yeah.
each
And
of them
then
were
with
little
the,
tests like that.
yeah, and then with the ghost, he, like, I just love the part where he is like immediate, like right before he's gonna jump into the water, he turns to
Yeah,
her and he's like,
yeah,
so what am I gonna get out of return? And then
yeah.
she's just like, it's like, don't ask that, don't ever ask, why would you ask that?
Yeah, yeah, that was really good. Yeah, yeah, because it's he was almost imitating the guy, the scavenger from the
Yep.
previous scene. Yeah, and she's like, "What the heck?" Like that
And
was a
that, it
good.
made, I loved it because it made no sense, because it's like, just be like, imagine you are on this journey to get your head cut off. You meet someone who's had their head cut off and
Yeah.
needs you to get their head so they can live like in their ghost peaceful afterlife. Like, I just feel like, what are the chances of that? One. And then out of like all the scenarios, why would you be so like selfish to ask for something in return?
I
When
mean, they did do a good job of that, like establishing his character at the beginning, because there were so many little things like that, like even the scene. Oh God, like the scene with him and his harlot girlfriend, um, where she's like, oh yeah, you can be like a king, and
yeah,
you'll make me my your queen, right? And he just
yeah,
doesn't say anything for a long time, until she has to literally like say what she expected him to say, and like move his mouth, to like to say it, like, yes, you will be my queen, and I will give you
yeah,
gold. And it's like really sad, but like also really realistic to that character. It's like it's what that character would do, because he's very unsure, and and kind of selfish, and that's what his character is at that point. So yeah.
dude, I have so much, that fucking scene. Like, I have never been more angry in a movie theater in my life. Like, I'm in love with this actor, and her character is amazing. Like, I love the way her character is portrayed. Like, I feel like a lot of the like characters in these kind of stories that are like female, and they're like, they they're like working at a brothel or whatever, like they're
Yeah.
always just kind of tossed aside, and I just love the like I guess she doesn't really have agency because she's not doing anything really, because it doesn't support the narrative or whatever, but I just love how her character feels so real, and it
Mm.
feels so, like, I felt so much empathy for her. Like, it never felt like the film was making her disgusting or invaluable or unintelligent. And I feel like most films in this genre always have women as unintelligent or unresourceful, or you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
it's they're just always like a pawn or something that someone's fighting over or whatever. But in this film, like she felt so real to me, and like she had objectives and ambitions of her own. The film didn't get into it, but just the performance that Alicia gave, like, I don't know why, I just imagined that she did have these plans, and that scene specifically kind of made that all resonate with me, where like all she wants is to be a normal, or not a normal, but like get into royalty to get out of the life that she's living. Like you can tell she doesn't enjoy that, or she isn't like drinking or doing drugs or whatever the other people in the brothel are doing, like just laughing away, like whatever, just their life is meaningless. Like I can just tell that there's something of value, and that she like truly is in love with what's his name? Fuck, Garwin. And that scene just broke my fucking heart. Like seeing one of my favorite performers, and then seeing a character that I'm resonating with, and then seeing Garwin, the piece of shit motherfucker that's just like, oh my god. Like when she started moving his mouth, like my jaw was on the floor. I was like, I hope I can see your head get fucking sliced.
Got your chivalry going.
God, dude, oh my god. And then it was just amplified even more when her second, Alicia's second scene, when she's talking about the color green that we kind of mentioned before, when she's giving that monologue, and it's just so, just the words, like, I mean, fucking David Lowery just wrote, like, I don't know if that monologue is in the original poem.
I don't know. I don't know.
But that was just a succinct, like, perfect, just knife into his fucking ego, and he still doesn't understand. Like, he's like, his face is just, you're just a fucking idiot, man. Like, you will never grow. And I just love how her character is so above him, and it almost feels like if you were to see this film, if you were to take the perspective that maybe it's about masculinity, or the negatives of masculinity, or toxic masculinity, or anything, just the male ego. And if her character is like the female voice in this film, it like, even in that perspective, it just like that resonates with me so much, because she is, her and the mother, now thinking about it, like they're both trying to help him, and like giving him all the information, and just calling him out on his bullshit, and like being so honest and nice and caring. And then he's just so absorbed with his destiny.
Now that you're talking about it, it's like, God, like that makes me think that her character, first of all, I didn't even register until this conversation that actress was both the prostitute character and the lady character.
Are you serious?
Like, yes, I am totally serious, and I feel dumb. But yeah, I didn't even. I literally didn't even think those were. Yeah, I really didn't, while I was watching the movie, think that was the same actress. Okay, so, but that makes even more sense that that they use the same actress, because it is. Yeah, it's like, and also, it's like her whole purpose is showing him how, like, his flaws. Because what I thought an interesting thing that was for sure not in the original was the photography thing, where she has him pose for a portrait and does her weird photography somehow back in the Middle Ages, you know, and she creates that photograph of him, but it's upside down, and the only other time we see it is in that montage, which is basically like the dark version of what his life could become. And so I feel like that's a perfect symbol for, like, that's what she was doing, was showing him a portrait of himself, like the negative portrait of himself. Like if he went down that path, you know, that's what he would be. And that was her role. And yeah, he didn't get it until the very end.
Yeah. God, man. Fuck. But yeah, she like, and then the performance that she gives as the brothel lady, and then as this queen like lady, like they're so distinct, and they're so like definitive, but it, like, for me, I could still tell it's the same like spirit, the same spirit of intelligence throughout both of the characters, but like the mannerisms, like the way she moved her body, the way she talked, the way she looked, like all of that changed between the characters, but like the spirit was there. And I just fucking love her. Like ever since I saw her in Ex Machina, it's just like, I don't know why she is not the biggest actress working right now. Like she has,
she was very good
talent
in both of those. Yeah. God.
Oh my god. But yeah, that the picture, I think that's real. Like I know there is a form of like a picture taking like that. That
they had back then.
I don't know if it existed back then. Like, I don't know how old this goes, but I know in Birmingham there's a place that does it, and it's just like some sort of oils or inks or something, and
Yeah.
then you expose it to like sunlight, and it'll like
Yeah.
stamp an image or something. And you have to have like a mirror, so like you're putting light into the person and then a mirror. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me, but I feel like that is an actual thing. I don't know if it's existed all the way back then though. That seemed kind of
Yeah, I
shocking
have
if it did.
no idea, but that was, now that I think about the symbolism of it, that was a really nice
Yeah.
addition.
And
Um,
that is cool that they had it upside down for the whole
yeah.
scene. Like that she could have turned it around. But that's interesting because like I know like a lot of people represent like if someone is like if something falls, you flip the flag upside down, or flip the cross upside down, and then it has like this evil connotation. So
Yeah.
and then in his like in the montage where he's going through the visualization, he has it like right behind his throne and it's
Yep.
upright, and
Yeah.
it seems way bigger than it actually was
Ah.
in reality. Like it felt like it was taking over both of the chairs, like almost like it was just like a huge portrait, which the
Yeah.
original wasn't that big. So
It's like his ego, and it's just
yeah,
growing. It's been growing over the years in this alternate reality.
and I
Yeah.
love how pathetic he looks in that photo. Like he doesn't even look happy in his
Mm-hmm.
own fucking cynicism.
Yeah. He was caught with that expression on his face, like a confused, like, yeah, like anger. I don't know. Yeah, it was good. Oh God, can I
Oh
talk about
man.
my theory or like extension of what we've already talked about, where it's like how his mom is helping him,
Mm-hmm.
magically throughout this whole process. Like, all right, so one of my probably my, besides the end montage, which I don't know if you call that a scene, but my favorite scene from the movie, for some reason, was when he's tied up, on the ground, and he's all pathetic, and they've stolen his horse and everything, and then the camera just like slowly pans around in a circle, and
Mm-hmm.
the music gets like super like evocative of something. I don't know exactly what. And there's also, I noticed there were sound effects, and I don't know what those sound effects were. That's something I would want to watch in a rewatch. Like, what were those sound effects exactly? But it pans all the way around, and you see he's just a skeleton. It's kind of funny. It's like, okay, he's dead, but also it's really pathetic. And you're like, oh my God, like, like, what if it just like went like this? Like, what if it just went with this? Like, oh, he just died. And then the camera pans back the other opposite direction, and he's alive again. And again, there were like sound effects, which I don't know what they were,
Yeah.
and very evocative music. And my theory that I'm not sure is true, could be totally off, that I noticed, and also had to do with that really great montage near the end, was that not only is the mom like helping him magically in things like, giving him the sash back, giving him the axe that he lost back, things like that. Is she like literally reversing time when he makes a mistake, and basically just going back to the last save point basically? And like,
Yeah.
is she going that far? Because that's kind of what I interpreted that skeleton scene as. Like, whoa, like, did something magic just happen here where she literally reversed time? Was like, bruh, like, you fucked up. Like, let's try that again. Let's try that
Oh
again.
my god.
We're gonna bring you back to life, and you're gonna try this again, because
Yeah.
you're so stupid at this point, and cowardly. But like, if we give you another shot, you can do this. And it
Yeah.
also, the ending, like, was it really just that he was just imagining that entire montage, or was it that she was showing him that, like, magically giving him a vision of what he
Uh,
would be? Or literally did he do that and like go back and live that entire life, and then like, because one of the last things you see her in that very last scene in that montage, like, she's sitting next to him, and then she gets up and leaves, like she's the last person to leave, and she just looks disappointed, in
yeah.
him. And I'm like, whoa, like, does at that point, like, does she let him go to that final point, and then reverse and then reverse it, and is like, dude, like, try again. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know.
Is there another time where that would happen?
Those are the only two times that I could think of that it seemed like something
Yeah.
magical was happening or could have been happening. That, because man, that montage, that final montage, was just so just straightforward and convincing. You know, it was just like
Yeah.
so like
It felt like the
this is
movie
what's
too.
happening. Yes, and I was
Yeah.
like, secretly, I was like really excited about that, and I was like,
Oh,
oh,
dude, yeah.
is he really just gonna go with this, and like this is gonna be, it's gonna end on this like, yeah, and like this is to me, I was like, I was already like thinking about what I was gonna say about like, whoa, this is like this big statement on like, yeah, like heroism and like what we think of as our heroes and like
They're
like
actually
I would,
just selfish people who have to go out of
yeah,
their way to ruin others to.
or and just like lies are a part of all these people, you know, like
Yeah.
think of celebrities and famous people and politicians and presidents, and I don't know,
Yeah.
it really sparked my brain. But then when it reversed, I have to admit I was a little disappointed that that was all reversed. And
Yeah.
then he kind of, you know, got his bravery, because I was like, whoa, that would have been really like a really gutsy adaptation of the Green Knight.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, he chickened out and went back to that just being like whatever it was. And yeah, then he got his bravery. But I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know.
That's. I guess there's the one. I guess the one part that's kind of weird that we haven't touched on was the part where he's in the middle of his travel. He's like on these rocks. He falls, and then he eats these like little mushrooms or something. And then I think after that's when he sees like the giants and
Yeah.
stuff. Could he
Mm-hmm.
have died rolling down the hill or something? Like I don't know.
Oh
There was
man,
something weird about that scene. Like why did he eat mushrooms and then what were the effects? Because he started vomiting and stuff.
I feel like that was just
That was
that
just
he seemed like he was really hungry and
yeah,
starving, so he just ate whatever. And it was just, I was that was another point in the movie I was like, this is a little too I don't know, it kind of takes me out of the whole time period and feeling of the movie to have like a little psychedelic mushroom trip here. But
yeah.
it wasn't
And
bad. But I mean, I like the whole giant thing was like very very interesting. But
yeah.
uh
What did you get from that stuff? Like I
oh
didn't really
god, I don't know.
understand what. Cause like what did the giant like I can't even remember what the giant said, but I remember it said something.
He couldn't understand it, I don't think, or at least I didn't understand what the giant was saying. It was just like a
Um,
different language. It seemed to me like the giant was just, he asked a question or said, I forgot what he said, like where are you going or something.
yeah.
And the giant just like, it sounded just like gibberish to me, just like another language that he couldn't understand. And then it tries to pick him up, and then the fox, his magical fox companion, like, what would you call that sound, like just
Like howls or something.
howls at it, yeah. And the giant howls back at it and starts a giant chorus where all of them are howling in a really interesting sound. And then that's it. Like I don't know what to make of that either.
Yeah.
Like I
I
have no
guess.
idea.
Oh, was so. What was the fox? Was the fox
Mm,
also the mother?
we should definitely talk about that, because yeah, like the fox, all right,
What did
like
the fox say? I'm just kidding.
yeah. Like it first appears like when he's during the Saint Winifred thing. I think it just kind
Yes.
of like comes, it just walks up when he's like getting the skull out of the pond, and then follows him from there, and then magically speaks. So it's obviously magical. And I mean, my first guess would be that it's just another manifestation of his mom helping him,
Yeah.
or kind of also tempting him, because it does tempt him at the last minute, like, hey, you know, you could just leave now and make up a story. Um, so and
But it felt like
foxes are known to be like, you know, foxes are kind of like symbolically like tricksters, um, you know, beings that are sly and cunning and trick people.
yeah.
So was it just another kind of temptation for him? I don't know.
I don't know. The fox felt very, very kind. Like I never felt
Oh,
anything conniving from it. And like that moment where it's telling him to not go, it felt way more
Mm.
Like it felt way more earnest than I think how foxes are normally portrayed. Like it felt like it wanted him to survive. Like cuz
Mm.
I think at that part of the film, like when I was watching it that first viewing, it felt like that was the mom, and then I was
Yeah.
like, oh, the mom knows he's not going to win the game. Like maybe he's lied so much that, because my interpretation of the end is like maybe there was a scenario where he passed all the tests, he would get to the Green Knight and not have to have his head cut off. Like
Yeah.
he would have passed.
Right.
But because he ruined literally everything, every step of the way, and then the end ruined the end, I felt like the fox was when I was watching it, it felt like the fox was the mom saying like, once you cross this river, it's done. Like your journey's over.
Damn.
And maybe she just felt so bad, like I thought you were going to do, like I thought you were going to grow into a man and you just didn't.
Ooh. That's a dark, yeah,
Because even
interpretation of that
the
ending.
fox even turned back around, and almost in like a longing kind of way, like it's like a failure almost.
Yeah. But do you think the game was that serious? Because, I mean, one
And I
line that I
guess
think about, like early on, she tells him before he leaves, she's like, remember, it's only a game. Almost to like, kind of like, so he has in the back of his head, like, yeah, it's going to be sort of testing of me, but it's not like he's actually going to die. Like, I don't know. Like, he's never meant to actually be beheaded by the Green Knight, was kind of like what I was thinking. But
well,
I kind of
so
like your interpretation, because it is kind of like, whoa, like, okay, if he failed, but don't you think his taking the sash off in the end was him passing the test in some way, or like,
oh, I don't
you know what
think
I
it
mean?
was. I don't think it
No,
was at all. No.
no,
Like I think I'm 100% like in my version of the film, he got his head cut off. Like
okay,
it was done because even the knight, like, because he's like crying, takes off the stash, and then the Green Knight like kneels beside him too, like, and I don't know if he puts his hand on his shoulder or something, but like there was that sense of like sympathy. It's like
mm-hmm.
you like fuck, like it feels worse now that you took it off and now I have to cut your head because like you finally learned, but you learned way too late. And like
Mm.
I kind of agree. I would have loved to see his head cut off because I fucking hate this character so much.
Oh my god.
But but like, and that's just like how I interpret most of these kind of like art house films, like you know, like First Reformed and all that. Um, but yeah, with the Fox thing and the mom, God, I forgot what I was gonna say. I was gonna say something else, like something else I thought of. Uh, damn it, I forgot.
Hey, when that happens, yeah. Well, you can interrupt me if you think of it, but like I was, I don't know, because the Green Knight, he kind of smiled when he said that at the very end. So I
Yeah,
kind of, that made me think he was being friendly. Like he was like, that was a good sign that he took the sash off, and he was approving of him a little bit. I don't know. That was the vibe I got from the Green Knight, that he was like, all right. And his final comment was sort of like, he said it with a smile, like, okay, like it's time to take your head off now, like, and that's, I guess that's why I took it as, he was being metaphorical, like all right,
yeah.
like you pass, like your ego is gone, you learned what courage is, you've learned what honor is, so
Oh,
like, all right.
the. Oh, sorry to cut you off.
Mm.
But so the thing I guess I had a different interpretation of is just the game. What I assumed from that is not that this is like, because in games you do like, because I think I'm trying to think of what the definition of the word game meant for them. And I think a game is a challenge that you have to be smart about to win. Like you need to think tactically about what you're going to do to min max what's going to happen. It's not that it's a game like it doesn't have any consequences, but it's a game as in you need to be aware of what you're doing so you do the right things. It will be obvious. It's a game. Play by the rules and you will win the game. And
Okay.
that's what I interpreted, because like everyone was kind of like vibing like that, like just do the right things and you'll win. And it was interesting because every task or challenge, they tell him the rules. They say, I'll bring you the food and you give me whatever you get. And it's like, can I get something in return for giving you this information about the river? Like and then the lady with the beheading, it's like,
Yeah.
I need you to get this head. Like they're all giving him a task.
Yep.
And I feel like that's part of the game, but he's not listening to the rules. And even in the beginning of the film, when he volunteers to behead the Green Knight, I am
Oh.
100% sure he did not actually listen. Like he heard
Oh my
what the
God.
Green
Yeah.
Knight said, but he was not paying attention and he did not listen because you could see it on his face. Like he cut the head off. He even yelled, "Everyone remember this moment." And then it wasn't until he finished cutting the head, he looked at everyone else, and everyone was like, "What the fuck did you just do?" And
Yeah, it
then,
definitely that's I mean, I wrote down like, okay, like was him cutting off the head, like did he pass or fail that test? Like was that yeah, and it seemed like the way they portrayed it in the movie, that was a mistake. Like that was not what he was supposed to do, and everyone in the room was kind of like, "What?"
yeah,
Like why did you do that? Yeah. Yeah. And also, you made me think of a comment that King Arthur says to him. King Arthur asks him, he's like, "You sure do you understand the rules of the game?" Like, I'm pretty sure King Arthur says that to him before he steps
yeah,
up. Yeah, with the sword. So yeah, God, yeah, that makes you're convincing me that okay,
he is. And then
maybe
this,
that the game was serious, like it had consequences.
yeah, I think all, especially in this time period, I think all games are serious. Like when, because I imagine in this time period, people were like, fucking having duels for fun, and then
Oh sure,
someone
yeah,
actually gets their fucking heads cut off.
yeah,
So
good
like,
point.
I think the definition of game here is different, and like even like, because didn't they call game like when you hunt an animal, like that's
Yeah,
technically game. So it's, I don't know, but the point is, yeah, I think, and then that kind of fits with what David Lowery said, that it's a coming of age story, and this is just a very fatalistic coming of age story.
Uh, yeah,
You're
I was gonna say based on that comment, it sounds like I would disagree with your theory that like okay, if the director said it was a coming of age story, like that's usually a positive thing. That means there's some kind of character growth but I guess what you're saying is he did grow, but it was just too late.
Well, no, I mean, I don't think a coming of age story has to be a positive. I just think
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
the because I think it's a trope of scenarios. It's like a genre, right? Like,
Yeah.
and just no one has made a coming of age story where the person that's supposed to come of age passed. Like
The,
they all redeem themselves at the very end, and then the film fixes itself. It's like a rom-com. The couple hates each other, and then suddenly in the last 5 minutes they fall in love. And I feel like this is kind of like how those stories back then, like most folk tales, they are very fatalistic. Like it's very
true.
dire,
True.
and it's very cynical, and it's life or death.
That's
And
true.
said, like, so and so character did not learn their lesson, and that's why you should be afraid to always pay attention to whatever you're committing yourself to. Like whatever you
Yeah.
tell someone you're going to do, you better fucking do it, because yeah, I mean,
Gosh, that makes sense. Yeah, mentioning the how fairy tales were back then and stuff. Yeah, you're right. And it could be that it's like, yeah, like he's still got to get his head cut, and that's why maybe that's why he didn't show any like the end, because it's kind of
yeah,
like that would be a little too weird to show, I guess, if like as the last thing that happened in the movie. You know what I mean?
I
Because
think,
but there's nothing after that, so that's why he
yeah,
didn't show the ending. Like there's no reveal. There's nothing like the original poem, like where it's like, oh, this is this, and this was just a test, and you get to go home, and yeah,
yeah.
that
I
kind of
think
makes sense.
especially for this genre of film, for art house films, I don't think you can have a definitive ending and it work. Like I'm thinking of a film by A24, I think it was 2019, The Lighthouse. It was a
Yeah,
beautiful film. Gave it like a 9 out of 10, amazing throughout. And then that has, I guess, spoilers for The Lighthouse. If you haven't seen it, you can skip forward like 10 seconds. It's not that big of a spoiler. But, he goes into the lighthouse, he's seeing the beam of light, and then the movie gets all crazy, and then he falls down the stairs or whatever. And I was like, all right, that's where you end the film. You don't know if he's alive or dead. But then, like, the film has this extra 10-second scene where he's just on a beach being eaten by pelicans. Like, and like that was just like, it was too much. And like I'm thinking about like Midsommar, its ending, like it ends, but it doesn't like show her leave, or you know what I'm saying, like. And then same thing with First Reformed, he's gonna bomb the church or whatever, but then you just see him in this weird mental trip. I feel like this film captures that same energy, and I think even though I do want to see his head cut off, I don't think it would have made the film. It would have been a very blunt ending where this immediately makes me think, what? Like, what the fuck? You know, like it begins
Yeah,
that the cycle of questioning.
man, you that interpretation makes me appreciate the ending a lot better.
You need to watch the movie again, dude. Like, I've been just thinking about all this shit, and I'm like, oh my god, like everything is like things are starting to click together. Like as I'm like developing what this film was about in my head, it's starting to solidify into something that I really fucking love. And
So
and,
he
and I
doesn't.
love.
It's kind of like he does, but then it's like he doesn't get rewarded for at least taking the step of taking the sash off. Like, or maybe I guess that wasn't good enough.
Well,
Because
it's the end. It's like that's the last thing before finality. You know, it's like you being on your deathbed and finally apologizing to whatever family member. Like it's only good for you because now you can have a peaceful 5 seconds before death. But you know, like your legacy is still shit, and you're still going to die. So I just think it's a failed coming of age story. Like I think if that was the intended goal of this film, in my mind so far, it perfected it. Every
you know what
scene reinforced that topic.
you know what they could have done though to like reinforce it even more, what your
Yeah.
interpretation, if that's true. Like they could have done it with a really quick shot of the mom either crying or like maybe being really shocked or like surprised because the game that she created led to these consequences. I don't know, it's like that would have made it a lot more clearer without it being like too like beating you over the head with it. They should have like shown the mom's reaction to what's happening, because that would tell me whether what you're saying is true. And it's just like, okay, like this had to happen. Like he's gonna have to die,
Yeah.
even though I get maybe the fox is what you're saying. Like the last time we see the fox is supposed to be that. I don't know, but yeah,
Yeah,
it's
the
kind of
fox.
it's maybe a little too ambiguous for me.
Well, I'm trying to think of a scene with, because the last scene we see her is her making that satchel, the green thing, the green
Yeah.
whatever it is. And like I don't think that part was part of the plan. Like I think that was something she added after. Yeah, because she made it right before he left. Like because they were all like, because weren't all the like women in the brothel like chanting while they were like stitching it and stuff? Was that what they were stitching, or were they stitching something else?
Yeah, I vaguely remember that was part of their rituals that they were doing, their preparations, like her and the mom and the other women that were doing their witchy things.
Oh yeah, because the mom, before he leaves, she says, "Wear this. Don't take it
Yeah,
off, and you will return to me."
right. With it
So
unharmed. Yeah.
so I don't think. Oh my god, because now I'm thinking, because it wasn't just her doing the witchcraft. It was like a committee of 4 people. So what
Yeah.
if it was not really? You know how like this like I'm thinking of like the Spartans and how they kind of sent their children off when they were like in their like
Oh.
pubescent or whatever, into
Yeah.
like the woodlands to like survive, and if they came
Yeah.
back then they were worthy. What if this
Hmm.
was like kind of like a randomized thing that the witches, because I remember they were all throwing sticks and stuff into this middle pot or
Uh-huh.
this middle section, and then like one thing caught fire or something. I can't remember exactly what happened,
Oh.
but it seemed like something was chosen, and then that's when she put on the blindfold, and that's when she started the whole, because she wrote whatever by hand. So
Yeah.
maybe it was her child that was selected, and maybe there's some ritual that I'm not
Hmm.
aware of, that it's almost like whose son will be selected for this challenge, and then something like that. Like it kind of felt like that, because now I'm thinking about all the mother's actions, all the actions that she took to set up the magic
Yeah,
She
she
was
was
always
trying to help him. Yeah, like the whole
yeah,
time she's trying to assist him. Yeah,
she was
that's
always
true.
working in contrary of the things she set up. And now I'm thinking, well, it wasn't just like every time it was showing her doing magic stuff, there was other women witchcraft people there. So
Yeah,
like that felt like it was a team thing, and then she was going out of her way to kind of, I mean, basically sabotage it. Because yeah, like it now it makes a lot of sense that the fox is her because they say the exact same thing. You will come back home. Just keep the satchel or whatever. I don't know.
yeah, yeah. That kind of makes sense actually. Like, I wonder if it's something they were, because the one scene that was or shot that was interesting was like that when King Arthur was at her house. You know, when he comes home drunk, Sir
Oh yeah.
Gawain, and he's just there talking to the mom. Like that made me think like, oh, is he like part of this plan? Like he knows that this is happening, that this whole test of Gawain. So yeah, like what if this is just a thing that they do to test their knights? You
Yeah.
know, in this version of the story, it's like and he didn't quite pass.
Oh, and this is the other thing because it is known that he would be the successor if King
Mm-hmm.
Arthur passed, right? Like everyone's kind
Mm-hmm.
of aware of that. And
Yeah.
in this version of the story, he is just a low life scum. And like now I'm thinking about the mother like actually wanting this challenge so his son can get out of this. You know, it's like most mothers with their children when they're in like the college era of their life and they're just like smoking pot and not really doing anything, dropping out of school, hanging out with friends every night. And just the mothers or parents are like, dude, what the fuck, dude, get a life. Like,
Get
hurry
out of the
up.
house.
Yeah,
Yeah.
get out of this phase so you can actually be something of value or merit.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
thinking, because this movie started with him like passed out drunk, and then he just immediately starts drinking. He's in the brothel, he goes to like drink at some bar or whatever,
Yeah. He's
or
a
like a
mess.
tavern.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, it kind of fits. Like, if you were to just remove all the fantasy stuff, this would be, and if he were to be successful in all his tasks, like, this would have been a perfect, just traditional coming of age story.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just a douchebag guy learning his lesson and then getting the girl at the end. Like, that's what this movie was supposed to go down, and then he just fucked it all up.
Yeah.
And
Oh
then
God.
now I see why, yeah, like maybe King Arthur wanted this to happen as well because it's like this is my successor. And like and in the film, I don't know if you felt this, but King Arthur and the wife seemed very sickly and ill. Like they
Oh
just
yeah.
seemed disturbingly ill compared to everyone else.
I thought that was super interesting because you don't see that very often in King Arthur movies. That
Oh,
you don't see them in this stage. You know that. I mean, that is a part of the legends. I mean, there's a whole the most. I think the most well known King Arthur, writing or like book is like the death of Arthur. Like it's about his
yeah.
death and what happens afterwards. So yeah,
And
it's interesting to see like a sickly Arthur. And oh my God, like while we're talking about him, that actor was really good as King
oh
Arthur,
yeah.
the Sean Harris, and it's
Yeah.
like God, his voice was just so raspy and just like he was great.
So
Uh,
aged.
yeah, just sickly and aged and tired, and but also he had like a sense of humor, and I don't know, yeah,
Yeah. And he
it's
felt
interesting.
like he had this intense history. And like and that's another thing that kind of ties to this idea is that he brings him up to the seat. He immediately knows that his Garwin's mother isn't there or whatever. And then he immediately tells him like he's like I realize that I haven't spoken to you. I don't know anything about you and you're my cousin's whatever. You're a sibling of mine, right? And then he's like I to get to know you, I want you to tell me a tale. And
Yeah,
then Garwin has no tales cuz he's just a fucking nobody.
yeah,
And then the queen says none to tell yet. So it almost feels like they're kind of
planning
like
this whole thing. They're all
yeah,
in on it. That's what you're saying.
yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I could see that. I could buy that. They're
Especially in
all in
this
on it.
time period, like if you have a successor, wouldn't you want them to be better than
Tested,
just a fucking drunk, town
right?
drunk?
Yeah, they wanted him to rise to the challenge, but it's like, I guess he didn't.
Yeah. Can you imagine King Arthur go into the house? This is probably the conversation before Garwin got there. He was like, King Arthur was talking to the mom and just like, man, he's gonna really fuck this up. Like this whole year, he hasn't done anything productive.
Yeah,
Flunked all his courses. I offered him like
yeah.
sword training. Denied that. He went one day and then just skipped out on. The professor told me he didn't even sign up.
Oh God, yeah, yeah. He's a loser. That's what I wrote down when he was the first. I mean, God, the first trial he has. First of all, those three people, the three little. I mean, they're basically like kids that assault him, on the road. They're like, yeah, it's like, dude, pull out your sword and like fight them or something. Like it's kind of ridiculous that these three kids, just like somehow beat him up and like tie him up. That's like, he was so pathetic. I just wrote down like, what a loser. Like he's tight because that was the vibe it was giving me. Just like, God, he's such a loser at this point. I thought it was gonna, I don't know. You would expect that he would grow and change, but I don't know. You're kind of convinced the more we talk, it's kind of convincing me that, okay, maybe he didn't change as much as I thought.
No, he's pathetic all the way to the end. And even the end was like, yeah, he finally decided to do what he originally said he was going to do, but it was still, it was out of fear. Like he saw the vision.
He saw the vision.
And I don't think it was how he turned out. Like he turned out to be some piece of shit because he had been a piece of shit. I think what really triggered him to take off the satchel was the end of the vision where he gets his head cut off, and then that scene lingers where his head's just rolling in the middle of the throne room or whatever.
Yeah.
And then that's what cuts us back into reality. And
so
like
it's just fear. Yeah.
It's just the fear of death, and it's like, I'm going to die. How long do I want to draw out this feeling that I have inside of me that like you can't escape it.
That's why I was thinking like maybe his mom gave him that vision because she was trying, like she was really trying. She was trying to give him all the help. So it's like her last ditch effort. Her last ditch effort was just giving him this really intense vision, and that made him do it. But the Green Knight's like, lol, that's not enough. That's not enough.
Okay, we need to talk about the because we haven't even gotten. So much happens in that montage. All right, one.
Yes. Oh, such a good montage.
He fucks over fucking Alicia again, gets her pregnant, and then fucking kills the baby.
Wait, does he kill it? No. He doesn't kill the baby.
They don't kill the baby?
No, I don't think so. He just takes the baby, and it becomes his son who grows up and then dies in a battle.
No. He has
really
another.
pathetically?
He has another child with the other girl
with
he
the
marries.
with the queen, that he gets betrothed to. But are you sure? Are you sure it's not the son isn't there before that? You think they just killed the baby?
I'm not sure if they. I know for a fact they took the baby because after they take the baby, she's on the ground crawling.
Oh yeah.
And then
they took the baby away from her. They stole it from her. And
but the age doesn't make sense because he married the new girl, and then it goes into like whatever conquest, and then it shows a young child like 5 or 7 playing with the map with all the other knights around the table, and he's aged significantly, and then it goes into the next where the battle is beginning, and then he's like a 20-year-old, but he's already in his like 50s at that point. So like if it was and like especially in this time period, like isn't it like super frowned upon if you were a knight or a part of a higher class to have children with a lower class? So that would have not been allowed.
Maybe
so that child was killed. I'm pretty sure of that. Now that I'm thinking.
I'll give you that one. Yeah, I'm not sure, but and then God, that whole montage was just so good. The music was really good. Like the pacing of it was just perfect. Where I was just like hooked. Yeah, and then like what happens after that? Yeah, the map and he said battles, and then it's like.
And he doesn't even care like what the battles are. Like he's just like the worst fucking king. And then
the crack where he's where he's laying in bed and the ceiling above him cracks. It actually made me jump because I think I was so like locked into what was to that scene that was the only part of the movie that like made me jump. I was like, whoa! It kind of startled me but that was so cool. That was such a great like little. Like his house is crumbling, and then literally when it's getting besieged, it's the ceiling is crumbling and he's just sitting there just looking depressed on his throne. And
God, it
then
is.
everyone leaves, his wife leaves him, and his child, and his mom leaves him, and everyone leaves, and then he's just on the throne just waiting for them to come kill him. And then he just, like a coward, like the coward that he is in that version of
Yeah.
events, he just pulls the green sash out. And it's cool how he pulls it out. It's almost like he's pulling out his intestines. That's how
Oh
it's.
yeah, I
I think
love
there
that.
might even be sound effects, but it would definitely sounded squishy and like painful, for him to pull that out of the weird hole in his shirt. And yeah,
Yeah.
gosh.
Oh man. And then like the he I guess he well it's not it's like a post sex scene with the new
Oh
wife and he's
yeah.
just like on the furthest side of the fucking bed. And then she's
Oh
just like
yeah.
turned to
Yeah.
the right or whatever. I was like,
Oh yeah.
you're a
Unhappy unhappy marriage. Yeah. And
and then
and then
just
did you like the awkward sex scene with with his with the lady, I forgot her name. It,
Alicia?
yeah, with Alicia, and he's got his sash around his waist. And
Yeah,
she's
he's
like, I think she tries to touch it, and he kind of like brushes her hand off or something. It's just like, oh my god, oh boy, yeah, this guy.
fucking god, dude. I hate so it's cool because how like it's interesting with the green sash how in the original you're saying that it was it's almost like a thing of honesty. And in this the satchel is almost the physical metaphor of his weakness, like his
Yep,
fear to confront anything.
yep, yeah,
And
it is.
that's awesome that he somehow like I mean that's pretty ballsy to get a story and then literally make it the inverse.
Yeah, if we were correct in this interpretation, it's like, yeah, that was oof. He did. I still think I liked in my head when I was really convinced that they were just going down that path of like, oh no, like this is actually what happens to him. Like
Yeah.
he really did just run away from the Green Knight, and he's that pathetic, and like and this is just the consequences of it. But then I don't know, and I thought the movie was just going to end there. I was like, okay, it's just that would be perfect. I was almost hoping for it to just end right there where he's like on the throne and is zooming in, and then he takes the sash off, and he's so cowardly. He just takes the sash off and just kills himself before they can even come in. Oh man, I would have loved that as the ending. That'll be my like cut of it. Is just end right there, and then
So
it's like it just leaves you thinking like, whoa, like, oh god, this guy, like it's so pathetic of an ending and such a tragedy. And like, yeah, I don't know.
so if it would have ended right there, would this have gotten a higher rating from you?
Yeah, I think it would have, honestly, because that's just so ballsy. That would have been so
Yeah.
gutsy to like go with that version of it, which is so opposite of what the original adaptation was. That ugh, I would have been, I would have been very happy with that risk, because I just like movies that take risks. But if your interpretation is right, that interpretation is pretty risky. But it's just, I don't know, they just weren't clear. It just wasn't quite clear enough with that, because you
Yeah.
could interpret it either way. You can interpret it like, oh, after that he just, it's all good. He just goes home and that's it,
I think it's
without us seeing.
yeah. I think
I
it
don't,
it has to be whatever you feel for that character. And since
yeah.
I hate the character, it's like that's what I want is for him to die. Gosh, man, this oh man. And then what was with the like him ejaculating into the
Yeah, I
that
just felt like that was a nice, again, quite a risk, not risky, well, yeah, I guess risky, kind of like edit to the original story there, like. And what I didn't like about that scene, or like what was interesting, was how ambiguous it was. Like, I couldn't tell if they were having sex for a second. Like, I couldn't tell.
yeah, that's what
Like
I thought.
was she on top of him and they were having sex, or was he resisting completely, or was, you couldn't see what was happening.
Yeah.
So I kind of wished they'd have shown more clearly. Like, was he just was he doing nothing, or was he completely like giving into temptation? But I guess the fact that he ejaculated on his sash
I
I don't know.
love that.
It's still ambiguous, I guess. But
That kind of feels like some sort of like it kind of has. It reminds me of the like imagery of the lighthouse where he's just masturbating ferociously and like he looks like this fucking salamander. Like his back is all bent and shit. And like this kind of like in this scene, it's way more pathetic. Like he like
yeah,
that scene,
yeah,
he is begging because she's like, "Do you want
yeah. He's like, oh
this?"
yes, yes.
And it's not her
So
body,
he
or
he
it's
for
not.
he for sure failed. Yeah, that
Yeah,
test.
because just cannot not have this. Like he cannot live with himself. He cannot live with any choice he makes.
Mm. Yeah, I guess the fact that he was begging for it is like he failed that test for sure.
Yeah,
Which I mean, I guess in the original story he failed that test too, and they spared his life. But it's like this guy failed a lot more than that.
yeah.
He failed every test this version of Gawain, so I don't know.
So wait, so in the original tale, you probably already said this, but I guess I forgot. But so in the original tale, the King Arthur character does plant this whole thing.
I think it's actually I don't know if it's King Arthur that plans it. It's the magician lady,
Okay, yeah,
which in this version is his mom, but in
yeah,
the
yeah,
original version
yeah.
it's his aunt. She just
Okay,
plans it as just a way of testing King Arthur's knights to see if they
yeah.
have honor. And also I think she has a beef with King Arthur's wife, the queen. So
Mm-hmm.
she's also trying to embarrass the queen at the same time, which is which I think was the part at the beginning where the Green Knight speaks through her, and it's really weird and creepy. I
Oh
guess
yeah,
that was the part that he put in there from that, but which was genuinely creepy. I like that. But
yeah.
yeah, it was more just like her doing it on her own, I think, just to test the knights. Wasn't really a conspiracy.
Oh, one final thing about Alicia Vikander's character, the final montage, because it almost works in like one, two. It's like a trilogy of moments. The her
Hmm.
wanting his hand whenever he becomes king, and then the second is the talk about the moss and the green color, that whole monologue, and then the final is in the montage where she's just like demolished as a person, and like he just comes back, like has sex with her, kills the child, dumps her off onto the street, and then there's like that one moment where she's like in the street staring at what he's become or whatever, and he's
Yeah.
just like staring at her like. And this is the thing that pisses me off about he's not even happy as an incompetent person. Like
No.
he's not, and that's what I think is so fucking cool, is that like he's not really evil, but I just love how he's never satisfied, and that his weakness is so strong that he can't even like. I don't know. I just feel like any other writer would take this character and have them. I don't know. Like they wouldn't be as pathetic as this person is. Like I don't think I've seen a character this pathetic since like First Reformed.
Yeah. Yeah. I just yeah, God, it's weird that I didn't really. I don't know why I didn't think about that when I was watching the movie, like the patheticness of him. But
Yeah, and I guess one last thing that I have to say, because I feel like I'm kind of done. But one last thing I wanted to talk about was oh fuck, what was it? Oh, the yeah, with his character. Like I guess I really connected with his character because like I feel like my greatest weakness is fear in my life, and just seeing this person be such an extreme version of what fear can do to you, like what like you not committing to something, you not doing something, you wanting something in return because you just can't deal with not getting something, or not willing to live your life without some sort of legacy to leave behind. I feel like that has been a constant struggle in my life. Like I just feel like I'm worthless unless I have something to show.
yeah,
And like I hope I haven't fucking been this kind of person to anyone else, but I can just see how slippery of a slope that can be. Like when you want something so badly that it can just like you're just blinded by other people's experiences and their perspectives. And I think that's like it's kind of an interesting tale in our age and society where so many people are so self-absorbed. I feel like this is like it's kind of a symbol of what we've all kind of turned into, especially like in the digital age with like social media and stuff. Like the same things kind of apply, and how we kind of ruin each other, take advantage of others, don't really care what people feel or don't feel. But yeah, especially with the Alicia Vikander character, like I just feel like she is just the brightest point of this film. Like I can't wait to watch this film over again just to see her and to feel all the anger that I felt all over again.
How pathetic Gawain was.
Dude, he is the if this film had an alternate title, it would be Fuckboy.
All right.
Like he is the definite, like look that up on Urban Dictionary if you don't know what that means, and he is the definition, like verbatim.
That's
yeah,
great. That could be alternate title to this movie.
Because the original is what, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And oh my God. Oh yeah. What if that's intentional? What if the fact that they renamed it just the Green Knight? It's like he's such a nobody. They took his name. They took his name out of the title. Oh my God.
That is actually very interesting because
that makes sense.
The amount of detail that David Lowery went through, like I feel like if he wanted Sir Gawain in the title, he would have gotten that.
Yeah.
I mean, even the credits, he doesn't even credit himself in the film. Like he just says it's an interpretation from Anonymous, because I guess originally, or they still haven't discovered.
Just Anonymous, yeah.
So like I feel like that's actually pretty intentional for a film this detailed. It's the Green Knight because it's not about him. It's about the game. It's about
the test. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I guess the color green? What is that like? Is that just greed? Like you think that the Green Knight, like what is the metaphorical meaning of that character to you?
Well, if you're taking this negative interpretation of it, then I think it's kind of what Alicia's character, her monologue is saying about how what the green can represent is just just rot. I guess just like the rot of someone's character, and just like dude, Sir Gawain he was too rotten, and that's what was exposed through this whole test. he didn't pass it. The moss had spread too deeply into his soul. Yeah, it had and that's what he saw in the vision, when he took ate the mushrooms. That kind of frightened him for a second, was that the moss was covering his hand.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's like, maybe he already sensed, that he was too far gone. Oh God. Yep.
Yeah. And then I guess one other thing I heard, or I've seen the discourse about on other podcasts, was like some people were interpreting the Green Knight almost as the Earth. Like it's almost like an ecological kind of metaphor. Like what, and like if you were to make all his tasks instead of human relations, it's more like worldly and Earth, and like we had one chance to be on this Earth and we could have chosen to just scratch the Earth, but instead we've decided to cut its fucking head off. Ooh. And then there's a timeline, there's an end date because we've made that choice.
Oh my God, that's good. Yeah.
And it's not even that we've made that choice, but we're just worsening it every step of the way. And then when it comes, we will be as pathetic and as sad and as miserable as Gawain is. And there's nothing we can do about it, you know? I like that interpretation, and it kind of fits. And I like how this film, you can kind of apply that.
God, I like it too, because I thought about that briefly when I was watching the movie. I was like, oh, like, is this a nice modern interpretation of it would have to have something to do with, climate change and humans' impact on the Earth, because that's not something that they would have had in mind when they wrote the original, whoever it was. But the fact that the Green Knight is such a symbol of nature, that hey, that's a convenient metaphor. Yeah.
And that's a choice he made, because from what I understand, the Green Knight was not a int tree like being. Like it was just like literally a knight in green. Or like
I
some people said his skin was green and he had a green horse, but he wasn't like a tree being, or was
I
he?
oh man, I kind of feel like he was actually. I
Really?
feel
Okay.
like in most depictions, it's like he is. Yeah, because there's another. God, I'm blanking now, but I'm into tarot cards. I don't know if I've told you that, but that's one of my little hobbies or whatever.
I
But
did
there's like
not
a
know
there's
that.
a yeah. There's a symbol that's like a that you see a lot that comes up, and it's the Green Man. And this is this story, this poem is often cited as one of the prime examples of this like archetype that you see a lot in different world myths and stuff of the Green Man, which is this the man that is very like representative of nature basically, and sometimes
Yeah.
has like tree branches growing out of him or moss or whatever. I feel like that's usually how the Green Knight is portrayed
Okay.
in pictures, but yeah, I don't know, but regardless, that's a good interpretation or modern interpretation of it. That
Yeah.
would make sense for sure. It fits.
Oh man. So is there any other big things you want to talk about?
I just want to appreciate like the cinematography and stuff a little bit
Oh
and the
yeah.
visuals, because like, all right, first of all, we haven't mentioned the very beginning of the movie. Just like the first 30 seconds, the introduction of the movie is so good, like just so like so epic. I love that opening. Like it was just like drew me in, like the voice, that actor that does the Green Knight, his voice and the visuals of it, it just had everything in it. The crown design, which I
Yeah.
haven't
Oh
seen in
man.
anything else, just so nice. Ever since I saw the first posters, just like, oh, that crown is just so good. um like, I don't know if you noticed this, but in the Green Knight, the first one scene when he shows up, like the subtle color changes when certain things were happening, like the light changes, like when the letter appears, it's like there's a slight green, like the scene kind of turns green, like the lights are greenish when that's first introduced, and then when King Arthur pulls out Excalibur, it's like the lights get very like blue and like bright. I just thought that was so
Yeah.
cool, like that attention to detail. They didn't need to do that, but like
Yeah.
some lighting, some whoever was in charge of the lighting just nailed it, because it just did really interesting stuff with the
Yeah.
lighting that I
Well, that
noticed. And then
was Andrew Droz Palermo was the DP.
gotta shout him out, yeah,
Yeah.
because that's just good stuff. And then, God, that shot of him leaving the city on that long road, that stretched
Oh
out away,
yeah.
and you could see the city in the distance and the ruins and the little kids following him, and I don't know, something about that shot was like really really nice. The yellow color, that's his color, which, God, just I'm having an epiphany that I don't think that yellow color is a part of the original poem, if I'm remembering correctly. And symbolically, the color yellow is cowardice. You know what I mean?
Oh
Like
man.
to call someone yellow or yellow bellied, like that means that
Yeah.
they're a coward. And it's like, oh my God, like yeah, like that's his color.
Yeah. And
that
and he
that
always
that
like after he gets like jumped or whatever, he like still wraps it around himself while he's like running
mm-hmm.
down.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, literally just thought about that. And
Wow.
oh, something we didn't talk or haven't talked about at all, but like, was this? I'm pretty sure this was digital. Did you
Yeah, it's
get
digital.
annoyed by the digital look of
Uh,
it? But because maybe because I hadn't been to the theaters in a while, but
yeah.
I for sure, like, I was like, ugh, this movie would have been a lot better if it was. I don't know if I was channeling my inner Anthony, but I was like, this movie would have benefited a lot from having that grainy
Oh my
film.
god, yeah. It
Yeah.
yeah. And it was especially because he played with color so much. Like now that
Mm.
you're talking about color, there was like the scene where he's underwater and it goes
Yeah.
from like blue to intense red
Red.
to
Yeah.
like the moonlight light blue. Like it's just there's so much color changing happening. And I do feel like I loved how it looked visually. Like for a digital film. Like, and all the shots were just stunning. But yeah, I would agree. If it was shot on film, it would have been. It would have made everything feel so much more grounded because it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you have written right here. This is a dirty film. Like it
Yes,
feels
I was gonna
nasty.
say that they did a good job of making. I love movies that are like, it just feels like dirty and heavy, and you can just
Yeah.
feel the clothing just getting dirty and muddy and sweaty, and lots of movies, especially like period pieces. It's just like things are too clean and too, it's just too clean. Like you're like, oh yeah, like their hair would be that clean and whatever.
Yeah.
But like they at least you could tell they really put effort into making it feel grounded. But yeah, God,
Yeah.
they had just filmed it in film. That would
And
have
and
added even more.
and that the production design is by Jade Healy and the art direction by Christine McDonough, David Pink, and then set decoration by Jenny Omen and costume design by I'm gonna torture this Malgozia Terzanska. Like all of
Damn.
them did freaking amazing.
They
Like
they earned their paycheck. Yeah.
I'm literally trying to think of a fantasy film that did better than this. Like that grounded the world. Like I
You
think
ever
this
seen?
this did better than like Lord of the Rings or Game of
Yeah.
Thrones. Like
Yeah.
all those feel what I imagine a fantasy world to be like, but this felt like reality. Like this just felt like a documentary almost of this time period. And I
You
don't
ever
know.
seen you ever seen Macbeth, the 2015
Oh
Macbeth
no,
movie that has shoot,
Michael
what is that
Fassbender,
actress? Michael Fassbender in it.
which
Yeah.
is Alicia Vikander's husband.
Really?
Yeah,
What a weird connection. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but
He's a
that movie has
phenomenal
this
actor.
sort of feeling, like very symbolic, like the colors are really nice and the dirt and feels very
Yeah.
grounded and yeah. It's the only other one I can think of.
Oh, I need to watch that. I've heard such amazing things about that film.
It's really good.
Oh man, but yeah, God. But I imagine it must have been like because I don't understand how they pulled this movie off budget wise. Like I just don't. I cannot. I cannot connect the pieces of how they made this work financially.
Well, most of it is in the woods. So, I mean that probably cuts your budget down pretty significantly.
Yeah.
like most of it is just in the woods. And I was thinking as I was watching it, I was like, yeah, it does kind of feel a little limited in budget because it is like a lot of it's just him walking through the woods or like just British countryside cliffs.
Yeah.
It's like
I guess so. I
I don't
am
know.
limited by Alabama terrain, which doesn't look cinematic at all. So I guess yeah, if you lived in if you like have been to Europe, you're like, "Oh no, all of Europe looks this nice." You're just in fucking hell.
I don't know. Yeah, yeah.
But
They
I
used
don't,
it well though. I mean, whatever their budget was, you didn't really feel it. I guess
yeah.
they used it well.
Well, cuz I'm thinking about like the lighthouse. Like yeah, I guess yeah. I guess it's a testament to the film that in my perspective it felt way more larger than just wood scenes. Like for some
Mhm.
reason it felt like a full world. But
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. They did a good job. Oh God, and just gosh, like even the Green Chapel scene, like so
Eggs.
it was so yeah, just like beautiful, just like exquisite, just like I was trying to find a screenshot of that to use for this episode because I was like, gosh, that the shot of him. There's just one shot of him entering the Green Chapel and he's standing in the golden doorway and the greenery tunnel is all around him and I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh, it just looks so good. Looks so good.
See, that is exactly how you pull off a color and then a space. If you're gonna call something a color, it better fucking look magnificent in that color. Not like Black Widow with its stupid red room.
Oh,
God, dude.
yeah, Green Chapel over Red Room. Yeah, any day.
Just every
That's funny.
every filmmaker or writer needs to like understand that. You call something a color, it needs to live up to
Needs
what
to be
it's.
epic.
Yeah, dude. You don't like fuck, man.
Because in the original story, it's I think it's just described as like an earthen mound. Like it's like nothing. It's like not really a chapel or anything. It's just like a mound of dirt or something.
Yeah.
So they really made it nice with the water falling down the steps up to the throne. And God, that whole scene of him sitting when the Green Knight is kind of just in, hibernation or whatever, and
Oh
he just
man.
waits there all night and is just looking up at him. That was really like dreamlike and nice. I just, that was where I haven't seen a scene like that. You don't see scenes like that in a lot of movies where it really takes its time and makes you feel him waiting there and what
Yeah.
that would feel like. And you see the Green Knight's eyes like open a little bit
Oh
just to
dude.
it. It's creepy, but it's like magical and kind of, and then just closes again. And it was really good.
The costume design of the Green Knight was immaculate. And then like how you're
Great.
saying
Yeah.
when he opened his eye, it felt creepy. Like it just felt
Yeah.
like a
It felt
living
magical.
being. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was at the level of like some Guillermo del Toro stuff, like monster
Yeah. That's a
creation.
that's a good comparison. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh
I could
man.
have seen him doing an adaptation of this, but it wouldn't. Don't think it would have been as good. But
I don't think a del Toro is as cynical as this is. Like I think this
yeah.
was a pretty perfect. Like the only person I would want to direct this kind of story is he did the Killing of the Sacred Deer and like The Favorite. Like I
Oh
like
yeah.
his view of just fucking he just goes out there. I feel like he's the only other person I could see directing this and having a different take, but it would still be very interesting to me.
Yeah.
Oh, one last thing I have to say because I feel like we haven't talked about him at all besides my hatred of his character. But Dev Patel, as a performer, as
Oh yeah.
acting in this role, like I did, it was very strange because I hated this character from like the first scene. Like I just immediately did not like him. But there's something about, I guess it's just the charisma that Dev Patel has, or his acting ability. Like he exudes this like youthful energy. Like he just feels like someone who's just he doesn't feel evil ever. Like it never
No.
feels like he is intentionally doing the wrong thing. It just feels like a like a boy not knowing what to do. You know, like
Yeah.
just ignorant and just yeah, like a,
Misguided.
yeah, like like this like he is your generic like you know that the pothead kid in some stoner film that fucks something up and then starts a crazy situation where everyone is involved. You know, like he feels like that character, the one that causes chaos but does not mean it. And I just think it's a testament to his whether it's his performance or just how Dave Patel is naturally. Like he just has that sense that you kind of want to like him. Like you don't like I never
Yeah.
want to hate him.
He has
And
a very likable face. Like let's just give him that. He just has a very very likable face for some reason.
yeah.
And so it's interesting to have him as this character, especially now that I'm thinking about your interpretation of it. As like yeah, like it makes it very tragic.
Yeah, because when he looks pathetic, like I couldn't help but empathize with him, and I couldn't help but hope, all right, this next thing he will get this next one right. He'll figure it out, and it's just and it like yeah, and I mean he fucking like he did a fantastic job, like just that ending scene with him in the chapel with the expression that he has of like
Yeah.
just the
Yeah.
dread, or even
Yes.
before, like right after cutting the head off in the beginning he looks like a child who just like broke a glass of like you know
yeah.
like a kid you hand them
yeah.
something and they drop it on the ground and they're just like in just
Yeah.
pure shock like what did I do.
He doesn't know what he did. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he like and it's just so interesting that he pulled this off. And it's what's also interesting is because like I'm sure there was a dozen plus actors that could have done this role, you know, who wanted this role that would have been who would have made more financial sense for a studio or for a filmmaker or for budget you know. And it's interesting that they picked him because like I don't really like think of him as a big star or anything like that. Like he hasn't had these big roles, but just performance wise, like I can't imagine anyone doing it better than he did
Yeah.
without
He was very solid. Yeah. And
and
and the dialogue, like I mean, God, like a lot of the times these movies, if they're trying to do that kind of dialogue, the very authentic, old-fashioned
yeah,
English dialogue, it can come across. I mean, it's just so easy for it to come across awkward
yeah.
and not natural at all. But yeah, I can't remember a movie that tried this kind of dialogue that made it sound this natural. and it was
And
mostly him.
yeah. And what's interesting, so this is something I gained from the interview with David Lowery, was uh, the interviewer asked Dev Patel specifically, like, hey, how did you choose your accent? Were you scared of being in this like old Middle English kind of setting or whatever? And then he was like, well, early on, David said we would just do our own accents. And then we just
Hmm.
kind of, like, everyone had free reign to do whatever they wanted because it was more about the emotion of our character, not about us fitting a period. And he was like, as
Whoa.
long as we say the dialogue is written, then we can interpret that in any way. And then David came in and like agreed and said the same thing. And then he specifically talked about the King Arthur. I forgot the actor's name, but he's like, he told him the same thing. It's like, just do your normal accent. And then that guy like came back or whatever, like to whatever test that they did or rehearsal, and he had like gotten down his King Arthur voice. And David Lowery was talking about like how magical it was, and he's like, he just went
Yeah.
full blown. And then he was like, now thinking back, like if he would have done his own accent, it would have completely destroyed the film because that character kind of his his accent cements the whole world because no one
Mm-hmm.
else in the film has that accent. No one else is talking like that. But for some reason, his character talking like that anchors everything to where you just assume everyone is, but no one is. Like even Alicia Vikander, she's talking in her like her actual accent. Like Dev Patel is he's British, so he's just talking in his own British accent. He's just
Yeah.
saying the words that would be have been said or whatever, but I just thought that was crazy because so many movies that do time periods, it's they go out of their way to have all these actors learn accents, and then you just have the varying degrees of people fucking it up.
Oh God, dude! Just watching the Fear Street trilogy that I was telling you about. Oh God, the third movie goes into 1666, like New England,
What?
and they're all trying to do this kind of like Irish sort of
Oh
accent, and
no.
it is horrid. It is horrible. Oh God. So yeah, you're exactly right. Like it's so easy to mess up. So that was interesting direction for him to tell them, like, hey, just use your. Because I didn't notice it. I didn't notice that they all had
Yeah.
slightly different accents. I didn't even think about that because it
It's
all
like
sounded very authentic to me.
and it's because and I think it's because we're introduced to King Arthur so early in the film. Like he's like within the first 20 minutes, you're kind of in that world. Yeah, like I'm like just thinking as a hopeful one day director, I'm like I need to fucking remember that because that like it was brilliant. Like it's all subconscious after that. Like you just have to have the anchor point. Once it's set, like everyone's kind of game. Like you're already in that world. That's yeah that. But yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, man, we have dissected this movie as much as I think we can.
Okay. Oh, I see you have the snowflake. Are you talking about like like when winter starts, like right after that?
Yeah, that was
Oh
just
my
an interesting little moment where he looks up and it's like scary that there's like a singular snowflake, falling, and you're like, oh God, like, you can feel his fear, and
Oh
it's funny.
man, yeah, I love that, and like that part of the film, I really, even more than all the other stuff, I really related to is that sense that, you set a goal for yourself or you have something
Yeah,
that you want to accomplish. Like for
yeah,
me, this year I was planning on like releasing a book in October, and then it's just I love that the screen title is like a year gone by too fast or whatever. It's
the too quick year, I think. Yeah,
yeah, the too quick year. And I'm just like, didn't we all just experience that last year? And then just
yeah,
seeing a
yeah,
snowflake, like I just imagine if where you were in the world, it was winter when COVID started, and then it's winter, and then you're still like in that
yeah.
zone of like fail. Like it would just feel so just gutting. And then yeah, in his scenario, knowing that his head's gonna be fucking lopped off.
Yep. Yeah, yeah. I
That
thought that was a nice little touch.
that just sounds horrible. Like, can you imagine like knowing your head's gonna be cut off? Because
Yeah.
you're just a fucking idiot. But that's I could talk about that for 2 hours. Like like I'm just it's so interesting. Like I hope we get to talk to someone else who hasn't seen this movie. Like or if someone could like email us or something. Like I wonder if they felt the level of like stupidity that I felt when it happened. Like not knowing the story, going in blind. It was just shocking.
Wait, the stupidity of what? Like to him, of his actions?
Yeah, of him just initially cutting the Green Knight's head off.
Oh, right. Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
as a
yeah.
viewer who knows nothing, it was,
Well,
and I could feel it in the theater because I felt like the other people didn't know. They were just like, "What the fuck?" But they were
why
all
would
like,
he do that? Yeah.
they were all
Yeah.
like, "This movie's stupid." Where me, I'm like, "Oh my god!" Like, this is either really genius if it pulls it off, or it's just stupid. And for me, it pulled it off. But for everyone else, they're all just, they wanted like Fast and the Furious with knights and.
Yeah. Damn, I hope this movie does good and as
Oh
far
man.
as box office, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to,
Well,
but it is worth seeing.
for sure. All right, man. I'm done. Are you burned out as well?
I'm done. Yep.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening to this episode of Cineverm. We would be grateful and humbled if you could leave us a review with your thoughts, or if you could share us around, as that really helps us in our journey to spread the love of cinema, especially with films like this. So if you like this film and you are having trouble convincing someone to watch it, share our episode with them. Maybe we can convince them. But we will see you next week. Thank you.
See ya.
Cineverse.